G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are going to be continuing in our Springtech series looking at the 5-star legendary blue hero Lepus, the Springtech Grenade Hurler. Now Lepus is available for summons as we saw from the Spring Seasonal Portal, or the Springtech event, which rolls around once every calendar year. As is the case with each of the seasonal events, even though there's only a one-off appearance per year, it does last for about 4 weeks. So there's typically similar opportunities in terms of the number of days to summon the event heroes. What's different with the spring one is it also usually spans the months of March and April, offering you 2 different heroes of the month to summon towards. Lepus himself has been around for a little bit, added during the second iteration of Springtech in March 2022, when he and Coney were both added to the existing pool of Springtech heroes. The portal was expanded again in March 23 when the variants for Pika and Hairwear were added, and that's pretty much where we are today. There was nothing in 2024. The portal odds itself, so let's take a quick look at that. So we can see there is a 0.6% chance of getting a legendary seasonal hero and a 1% chance for a legendary variant seasonal hero. So if we were to do 100 summons in this portal, costing us 26,000 gold in total, there is a 63% probability that you draw either of the 2 variant legendary heroes and a 45% probability that you draw one of the non-variant legendary heroes. If you were to go for a specific hero, so at the time of this review, there is a 39% probability that you'd get specifically Pika or specifically Hairwear, so a specific variant specific one with the variant, and there is an 18% probability of getting a specific non-variant hero, such as our mate Lepus. So Lepus himself, let's just have a quick gander at his artwork real sweet. So this is his artwork. I kind of like it. As is the case with all of the Springtech heroes, they've all got that bunny influence going on. So in the case of Lepus, he's got the face mask with the ears going on. Grenade Hurler, so he's got grenades. He doesn't really hurl them. He's kind of got a grenade shoot launcher. So I don't know, maybe not always a hurler. Maybe sometimes he hurls and other times he launches. But anyway, that's his artwork. I think it's kind of cool. He's got the padding going on of a bomb tech, even though it's still fairly minimal. But yeah, anyway, that's his artwork. Feel free to pause it if you wish. Otherwise, let's head back to the portal and we can take a look at his family bonus. So he is a member of the Springtech family, which means that he gives 5% charge to all allies whenever he casts his special skill, and that percentage is increased by 2% per each unique Springtech family member in the battle. So it is a flat percentage that is applied regardless of the recipient's charge speed. This didn't used to always be the case. It used to be based on their charge speed and it would go up or down based on their charge units, but fortunately that's not the case anymore. But what it does mean though is because it is a flat modifier, that slower heroes do get more benefit out of the 2% or 5% compared to faster ones. And that's just because slow heroes require more charge to get that 5% than fast heroes do. So yeah, it is also further affected by other charge generation modifiers such as variants, class emblems, as well as buffs and ailments that you get in-game. Although you are unlikely to notice this because 5% is quite a small amount, so 2% of 5%, which is a charge node on the emblem tree, that's only 0.1% increased charge. So you're not even going to see that with the degree of accuracy in the game. The other thing to note is that it does have to be unique heroes, so you can't bring along 2 copies of Lepus and trigger it. It's got to be 2 different heroes, such as pairing Lepus with Pika or Lepus with Hairwear as 2 examples. In terms of his stats, Lepus comes in with 686 attack, 701 defense, and 1490 HP. So there is some skewing there, going from the attack stat towards mostly defense, but a little bit towards that HP as well. But it is only relatively minor. It's not a big skewing at all. There is also some power creep that we can see. So compared to some of the newer heroes like Topaz, Lepus is 698 power, whereas Topaz is 742. So the power is just a relationship between the stats or the total stat distribution. So more power means that there is obviously going to be more stats available to distribute. His charge speed is set to 48 speed, which means it needs 11 tiles to charge or 6 ghosted tiles. The speed break does occur at speed 50, which you can achieve using any of the blue speed weapons in the game. So you've got the Ice Breath Saw and the Regalizer Magnum. Both of those are 5-star weapons and do plus 9 speed. The double break requires plus 10, so you've got to get up to charge speed 58, which you can't do using just a weapon alone. 9 is obviously less than 10. But if you combine the 2% charge generation node on his Demolitions class tree with the plus 9 gun, you do actually get the double break, which is quite good. It drops him down to needing only 9 tiles to charge, so pseudo fast. On the topic of his class, as I said, he is a Demolitions class hero, which means he has the chance to shell shock the enemy, removing their buffs whenever he deals damage. So the removal of buffs will also trigger an increase of 15% damage per each buff removed, or a flat 50% increase to normal damage if there's no buffs. Personally, I love the Demolitions perk. It's effectively a free opportunity for dispelling from the enemy heroes without needing to charge skills up or execute them. So you can just sling tiles, which are blue in this case, and each of them has a chance to remove all of the buffs from the targeted enemies. Typically, I do give +1 to most of my Demolitions class heroes when they're max, just to activate that chance for shell shocking. By way of an actual emblem path, we go and have a look at my Lepus. We can see that I've sort of gone a attack route with mine so far. I haven't really gone too far down the tree. I might do more of it if we see more pulse in the game, but at this point in time, I've only gone to +7. But yeah, if we were to continue that path down the tree, we are just picking up attack nodes wherever they are available, and we can see it looks something like this. As we mentioned, that 2% speed node there on the end is actually quite valuable to get that double break. It is at +19 though, so it may or may not be worth it for you to go all the way down that far on the tree. But if you were, definitely pick up that speed node. +20, I would say, is not worth it. I say this with all Demolitions class. 20 is not worth it, not for the stat gain you get for 250 emblems. So that would be the emblem path that I would do for Lepus. Feel free to pause it if you wish. But otherwise, let's head back to the portal and we can check out his special skill. So his special skill is titled Break Some Eggs, and at level 10 skill and 48 speed, it will deal 250% damage to the target and nearby enemies. It will then apply a delayed damage ailment to the target and nearby enemies, which deals 300 damage after 3 turns, with an additional 150 damage if they happen to have armor. It will then also apply a -24% attack debuff to the target and nearby enemies for 3 turns. So a couple of things going on there. So let's have a bit more of a detailed look at some of those things. So we'll start off with the direct damage aspect. So I compare heroes based on their attack power, which is just their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their skill. It is analogous to their final damage output, so more attack power equals more damage. I do this just for simplicity in the end. So in the case of Lepus, we can see that he's got 686 attack and 250% skill damage, which comes out as an attack power of 1,715. If we normalize that against the 11 tiles to charge his skill, we get an attack power per tile of 156, which it's not great, right? It comes in number 9 of the 11 blue DOA 3 hitters on this list that we can see. There are some really great ones. You know, you got Fungi Beats, who's 291. He's like the second or third best AoE 3 hitter in the game. Then you've got others on there like Torrent and Lumi. They're, 229 and 192 respectively. You've got some of the variants like Logan variant at 218, Banshee variant 226, and you've got basic Logan down the bottom at 133. So it's not the best, like we can see that, but unlike a lot of the others on the list, he does actually have an additional source of damage to help boost his total damage output, and that's in the form of the delayed damage. So we'll move along and have a quick talk about that next. So the delayed damage states that the target and nearby enemies will receive 300 damage after 3 turns and deals an additional 150 damage against armor. So in all, if we take the maximum possible additional damage out of that, we have 450 damage on up to 3 enemies. So that's 1,350 points of additional damage if all 3 enemies have armor. All right, so going up against someone like Ghost or even like so Casimir or Anastasia, someone that generates armor, we can be getting an awful lot of additional damage. Even without the bonus damage, we're talking 900 bonus damage if there's no armor. So it roughly doubles his damage output. So the skill-based damage comes in at about 300, 350 damage per enemy. So this is about doubling it. A really good thing about delayed damage is that you can stack multiple instances of it on the same enemy. So you can target the same enemy 2, 3, 4 times, and it doesn't replace it, as is the case with most ailments. So you won't have it like wipe out a previous instance. You'd actually have 2 instances of delayed damage on that target. The biggest concern with it is obviously that it is damage linked to an ailment, which means that there's no guarantee that you're actually going to get it. You can have a cleanse go off in the battle, that'll remove it. It can actually be withstood by things like either a status buff, like the ailment immunity from Doodle. It could be reflected, like we see with Aviana, or even with one of the Season 2 families. They can reflect or return status ailments. It can also be just withstood by the support class as well. So there is something to be wary of, I guess, with your targeting, is that there is a chance that because it is ailment based, you're not actually going to get the damage to actually trigger. So if you see a healer which has got a cleanse in their skill almost charged, maybe hold off on firing it until you've fired the cleanser off in advance. The other thing to note with it is that it is classed as turn-based damage, which means that it is bolstered by effects that increase turn-based damage, such as Whipster, Torrent, Mastodon. Those guys, they all increase turn-based damage, which means that the damage from Lepus will go up. So if we take the example of Torrent increases it by 50%. So if we take that base 300 damage and we increase it by 150 or 50%, we're getting 450 damage. If we take the 450 and increase it by 50%, we're getting an additional 240 odd damage, something like that, which means we're up towards 700 damage per enemy. So it is a very nice combination if you are to be able to pair it with someone that does have that effect. The final part of Lepus' skill is the attack debuff. So the target and nearby enemies get minus 24% attack for 3 turns. So first thing we see right off the bat, it is percentage based, which is really great, right? It means that it will continually scale with power creep, emblems, weapons, and other in-game effects. 24% is reasonably in line with other percentage based options. Actually, the majority of attack debuffs come in with static effects, so those are normally in the range of 10 to 15% if we were to convert it. So 24% is better than the majority of attack debuffs, and the bulk of the ones that are doing percentage based, they're also 24%. So there's nothing abnormal with Lepus. There are 3 that are better. You've got Aurora and Triptych. Both of them do minus 44%, and you've got Vincent, who does 31% up to 51% with a scaling on it. So yeah, 24% is still better than the vast majority of attack debuffers in the game, which are static numbers, but it's also in line with the majority of the others that we have. So the other thing that I'll point out is that because of how it feeds into the damage calculation, minus 24% attack debuff actually ends up being about a 30% damage reduction, which is quite nice as well. So overall, while Lepus does not have the world's best immediate damage from his skill, you can't really get around that. The delayed damage does go a fair way towards improving that. Admittedly, it is tied to an ailment, so it has its limitations. It can be withstood, it can be cleansed, it can be reversed, and all of that sort of thing, which mostly makes it a problem for defensive applications. In attacking situations, the player can be more selective and do their timing a bit better. So it doesn't factor as much in attack, but it is definitely a limitation for his defense side of things, or defense applications. And then, of course, we've got the attack debuff, which gives him a lot of additional versatility and uses. So for Lepus's grading, I'm going to give him a B+ for raid and war attacks. This is probably higher than what a lot of people think he might be, but I personally, being able to speed break him once, if not twice, as well as having very hefty delayed damage, I actually think that he is quite a good attacking hero. You add on to that the demolitions class as well, and he ends up being a very solid attacking unit. For War Machines, I am only going to give him a C+. The only thing he really contributes here is the attack debuff to help your team survive, so it's not really of great value. In the events, I am going to give him a C+. Yes, he's DOA 3, which is one of the better methods of damage in eventing, but because his initial damage is so low, it doesn't really make him a good event competition hero. In the defense sector, so in raid and war defenses, I am only going to give him a C+. As I said, the fact that half of his damage is tied to the ailment does make him not a very good defensive hero. So yeah, probably flank if you are to put him on a defense team is his best spot where he can sit behind a healer or a tank, sorry. His stats are reasonably bulky, so he could be a tank if your alliance runs blue tanks in wars. For Bloody Battles, I'm going to give him a B+ for attack and a B- on defense. Typically, there are less healers, there are less cleansers in Bloody Battles because most of them are tied to healers, hence the slight defense improvement there. In the buff booster tournaments, I'm going to give him a B grade on attack and a C grade on defense. He doesn't really do much for buff booster. He does have the attack debuff, which can cancel out some of the attack buff stuff, but it's not massive. Then finally, we've got the charged attack tournaments. So this is the charge tournament where he goes from 48 speed up to 65. So because of that improvement, I'm going to give him an A- on attack and a B- in the charge tournament defense. So overall, for Lepus's grading, that comes out as being an overall B grade for attack and a C+ for his overall defense grade. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Lepus. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your opinions, so please do drop down to the comments section. Leave me a note. I try to read and reply to as many of you as I can. If you did enjoy the video and found it to be good, useful, helpful, and all of that, feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel and all of that, but most importantly, share this video around, because if this sort of thing is useful for you, it's also going to be likely useful to the other people you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!